Can't sleep? Tired of counting sheep? Join me on a journey through the Star Wars galaxy as I narrate the entire story of the Mandalorian in a calming voice. You'll be drifting off to dreamland before you know it. Say goodbye to restless nights. This relaxing audio story of the Mandalorian will help you unwind, relax, and fall asleep quickly and peacefully. Experience the adventures of the lone bounty hunter in a soothing and hypnotic way. Relive the epic journey of the Mandalorian, from his first steps as a lone bounty hunter to his fateful encounter with the child. Let the calming voice and peaceful narration lull you into a state of deep relaxation, perfect for a good night's sleep. In the vast expanse of space, where countless stars twinkle like distant dreams, there exists a galaxy filled with wonder, adventure, and stories that span generations. Tonight, as you settle into the comfort of your bed, allow yourself to be transported to this magnificent realm, where heroes are forged in the fires of adversity, and where even the most unlikely bonds can change the course of destiny itself. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let the gentle rhythm of this tale carry you away from the worries of today. In this galaxy far, far away, we find ourselves in a time of transition, where the echoes of a great galactic war still reverberate through the outer reaches of civilized space. The Empire has fallen, but its shadow still looms large over countless worlds, and in the chaos that follows, new stories emerge. Our tale begins with a single figure, a lone warrior, whose identity remains hidden beneath armor of gleaming Beskar steel. He is a Mandalorian, a member of an ancient warrior culture that has survived countless trials throughout the ages. His people are known for their unwavering code of honor, their exceptional skills in combat, and their distinctive armor that has become legend throughout the galaxy. The Mandalorians themselves are children of Mandalore, a proud warrior culture that has faced extinction more than once throughout their long and storied history. They are a people bound not by blood, but by creed, by shared values that transcend species and origin. Their way of life is built upon discipline, honor, and the sacred bonds of family and clan. For generations, they have followed the ancient ways, passing down their traditions from one generation to the next, ensuring that their culture survives even when their homeworld does not. In the aftermath of the Great Purge, when the Empire sought to eliminate the Mandalorian way of life entirely, most of the survivors went into hiding, scattered across the galaxy like seeds on the cosmic wind. They formed small coverts, secret communities where they could preserve their traditions and protect their children. These hidden enclaves became the last bastions of Mandalorian culture, places where the old ways could be taught and the ancient codes could be upheld. It is from one such covert that our story's protagonist emerged, a foundling who was rescued as a child and raised in the Mandalorian way. His past is shrouded in mystery, his true name unknown even to himself. He is simply known as Din Djarin, though he rarely shares even this much of his identity with others. To most, he is simply Mando, a lone bounty hunter who operates in the Outer Rim territories, far from the prying eyes of what remains of Imperial authority. As you breathe slowly and deeply, imagine the vast emptiness of space, punctuated by the occasional flash of a ship's engines as it travels between worlds. Picture the cantinas and spaceports of remote planets, where beings from 100 different species gather to trade, to drink, and to share stories of their travels. It is in places like these that bounty hunters ply their trade, tracking down fugitives and criminals for the credits that keep them fed and their ships fueled. The profession of bounty hunting is not for the faint of heart. It requires skill, cunning, and a certain moral flexibility that allows one to pursue any target for the right price. Yet even in this morally ambiguous profession, there are codes to be followed, rules that govern the relationship between hunters and their prey, between the hunters themselves and between the hunters and those who employ them. The Bounty Hunters Guild serves as the primary organization that regulates this dangerous profession. Founded in the chaos that followed the fall of the Republic, The guild provides structure and legitimacy to what might otherwise be little more than organized crime. Guild members are issued tracking fobs that lead them to their targets. They operate under guild protection, and they are bound by guild rules. Most importantly, they are guaranteed payment for successfully completed bounties, provided they follow the guild's protocol. In the Outer Rim territories, where law enforcement is sparse and justice is often a luxury that frontier worlds cannot afford, bounty hunters serve an important function. They are the ones who track down the criminals that local authorities cannot catch. The ones who venture into the most dangerous corners of the galaxy in pursuit of their quarry. For many worlds, they represent the only hope of seeing justice done when their own resources fall short. Our Mandalorian has made his living in this profession for years, building a reputation as one of the most skilled and reliable hunters in his sector. He works alone, trusts few, and speaks even less. His ship, the Razor Crest, is both his home and his office. A pre-imperial gunship that has seen better days but continues to serve him faithfully in his travels from world to world. The Razor Crest itself tells a story of practical functionality over aesthetic appeal. Its hull bears the scars of countless adventures, the patched holes and mismatched panels a testament to its owner's resourcefulness and determination to keep flying no matter what the galaxy throws at him. Inside, every space is utilized efficiently, from the cramped cockpit to the cargo hold that doubles as a prison for captured bounties. It is not a luxury vessel by any means, but it is reliable, well-armed, and most importantly, it gets the job done. In the pilot's seat of this weathered ship, our Mandalorian spends long hours traveling through hyperspace, contemplating his next move or simply enjoying the rare moments of peace that come between hunts. The blue swirl of hyperspace outside the viewports creates a hypnotic pattern that seems to slow time itself, allowing for quiet reflection on the nature of his chosen profession and the path that led him to this solitary existence. The bounty hunter's life is one of constant motion, of never staying in one place long enough to form lasting connections or put down roots. It is an existence that suits those who prefer solitude, who find comfort in self-reliance, and who have learned that depending on others often leads to disappointment or betrayal. For our Mandalorian, this lifestyle represents more than just a career choice. It is a way of maintaining the discipline and focus that his people prize above all else. Yet beneath the Beskar armor, and behind the expressionless visor, there beats the heart of a man who, despite his chosen isolation, still carries within him the capacity for connection, for loyalty, and for love. These qualities, forged in the fires of his childhood rescue and tempered by years of training in the Mandalorian way, will soon be tested in ways he never could have imagined. As the stars wheel overhead in their eternal dance, and as you feel yourself beginning to relax into the rhythm of this tale, let your mind drift with our hero as he navigates the space lanes of the Outer Rim, his next destination unknown, his next bounty waiting somewhere in the vast darkness of space. The galaxy is full of stories, full of choices that will echo through the ages, and full of moments when a single decision can change everything. Little does our Mandalorian know, as he goes about his routine business of tracking and capturing fugitives, that his next assignment will not be routine at all. In fact, it will be the beginning of an adventure that will challenge everything he believes about his profession, his culture, and himself. It will force him to confront questions he has spent years avoiding, and it will ultimately transform him from a lone hunter into something far more precious and rare, a father. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. For now, let us simply enjoy the peaceful moments before the storm, the quiet times when our hero moves through space like a ghost, following the ancient ways of his people and living by the code that has sustained him through all the trials of his adult life. These moments of calm are precious in the life of a bounty hunter, for they are often few and far between. The twin suns of Tatooine cast long shadows across the desert landscape as our story truly begins. Though our Mandalorian is far from that legendary world at this moment, Instead, he finds himself on Navarro, a volcanic planet that serves as one of the primary hubs for bounty hunters guild operations in this sector of the galaxy. The planet's surface is scarred by ancient lava flows and dotted with settlements that exist primarily to serve the needs of hunters, traders, and other travelers who make their living in the moral gray areas between civilization and chaos. The guild's local headquarters on Navarro is housed in a building that has seen better days, its exterior weathered by volcanic ash and the constant traffic of beings who make violence their profession. Inside, the atmosphere is thick with the smoke of exotic tobacco and the tension that comes when dangerous individuals gather in close quarters. This is where bounty hunters come to collect their payments, to receive new assignments, and to trade information about targets and territory. Grief Karga, the guild's local leader, is a man who understands the delicate balance required to manage such a volatile group of individuals. Part administrator, part diplomat, and part enforcer, he has built his reputation on his ability to keep the hunters in line while ensuring that business continues to flow smoothly. His office, located in the back of the guild hall, serves as the nerve center for bounty hunting operations throughout the sector. It is here that our Mandalorian has come to turn in his latest bounty, a Mithril who had been foolish enough to believe he could evade capture by hiding in the cantinas of a remote mining world. The capture itself had been routine, requiring more patience than skill, and the Mithril now sits frozen in carbonite in the cargo hold of the Razor Crest, awaiting delivery to whoever had posted the bounty in the first place. The process of turning in a bounty is itself a carefully choreographed ritual. First, the hunter must present proof of capture, usually in the form of the target themselves, though in cases where live capture is not required, other forms of proof may suffice. Next, the guild representative must verify the identity of the captured individual against the original bounty posting, ensuring that the correct person has been apprehended. Finally, payment is rendered according to the terms agreed upon when the bounty was originally accepted. For our Mandalorian, this process has become as routine as breathing. He has been through it countless times over the years, delivering fugitives and criminals to face whatever justice awaits them. It is honest work in its way, providing a service that keeps the galaxy's lawless elements in check while ensuring that those who break the law face consequences for their actions. But as he sits across from Grief Karga's desk, watching the guild leader count out the credits for his latest successful capture, our hunter senses that something is different about this particular transaction. There is a tension in the air, a sense of anticipation that suggests this routine meeting may not be as routine as he had expected. Karga slides the credits across the desk with a flourish, but his expression suggests that this is not the end of their business for the day. Indeed, as the Mandalorian reaches for his payment, Karga clears his throat and leans back in his chair, a gesture that immediately puts the hunter on alert. In his line of work, surprises are rarely pleasant, and the body language of his employer suggests that some form of surprise is indeed coming. "I have another job for you," Karga says, his voice carrying a note of uncertainty that is unusual for someone in his position. But this one is different. The word hangs in the air between them like a challenge. In the bounty hunting business, different can mean many things, most of them dangerous. It might mean a target with unusual abilities, a job that requires special equipment, or a client who operates outside the normal channels. Any of these possibilities would require careful consideration before acceptance, and our Mandalorian has learned over the years to be particularly cautious about jobs that deviate from standard guild protocols. Karga reaches into his desk drawer and produces a small device that immediately catches the hunter's attention. It is a tracking fob, but unlike the standard guild-issued fobs that lead hunters to their targets, this one appears to be of Imperial manufacture. The distinctive design and superior craftsmanship mark it as a piece of technology that dates back to the height of the Empire's power, when Imperial engineering represented the pinnacle of galactic technological achievement. The sight of Imperial technology in a guild office raises immediate questions. Since the fall of the Empire, such devices have become increasingly rare, and their appearance in routine bounty hunting operations is unusual enough to warrant serious caution. The Empire may be gone, but its remnants still exist in various forms throughout the galaxy, and dealing with imperial clients often involves complications that go far beyond simple law enforcement. The client is, well, let's just say he has particular requirements. Karga continues, his choice of words careful and deliberate. He's willing to pay well, very well, but he insists on direct delivery. No guild intermediaries, no standard protocols, just you the target, and a meeting at coordinates he'll provide. This information only adds to the hunter's growing sense of unease. Direct delivery jobs are rare in guild operations, primarily because they bypass many of the safeguards that protect both hunters and clients from potential complications. When a client insists on direct delivery, it usually means they have reasons for wanting to avoid guild oversight, reasons that may not align with the hunter's best interest. Yet the credits being offered are substantial, more than our Mandalorian typically earns in several standard bounties combined. In his profession, such generous payments usually indicate either extreme danger or extreme importance, and sometimes both. The hunter finds himself weighing the obvious risks against the very real need for credits that comes with maintaining an aging ship and the equipment necessary for his profession. The tracking fob itself seems to pulse with an almost hypnotic rhythm, its signal indicating that the target is located somewhere in the Outer Rim territories, in a region of space known for its lawlessness and isolation. This is both good and bad news for a bounty hunter. Good because fewer complications from local law enforcement mean greater freedom of operation. Bad because the Outer Rim is also home to pirates, smugglers, and worse, creatures who would not hesitate to eliminate a lone hunter if they perceived him as a threat to their operation. As our Mandalorian considers the offer, his mind automatically begins running through the tactical considerations that such a job would entail. He calculates fuel costs, travel time, potential complications, and possible escape. These mental preparations have become second nature to him over the years, the automatic response of a professional who has survived in a dangerous profession by always thinking several steps ahead. The decision, when it comes, is based on a combination of practical necessity and professional pride. The credits are too good to pass up, and despite the obvious risks involved, he has confidence in his abilities and equipment to handle whatever complications might arise. More than that, there is something about the unusual nature of the assignment that appeals to his sense of adventure, a quality that has been somewhat dormant during the routine nature of his recent work. "I'll take it," he says finally, his voice filtered through the modulator in his helmet to remove any trace of emotion or uncertainty. The decision made, he reaches for the tracking fob, and as his gloved fingers close around the device, he feels the familiar thrill that comes with accepting a new challenge. Karga nods approvingly, though there is something in his expression that suggests relief as well as satisfaction. "Good. The client will be pleased. You'll find the coordinates for the initial meeting in the fob's memory bank. And Mando, be careful. This one feels different from the others." The warning, though vague, is not lost on our hunter. Grief Karga has been in the business long enough to develop instincts about jobs and clients, and when someone with his experience expresses caution, it is wise to take that caution seriously. Yet the die has been cast, the commitment made, and now there is nothing left to do but prepare for whatever lies ahead. As he rises from his chair and makes his way toward the exit, the Mandalorian's mind is already shifting into mission mode, running through equipment checks and plotting the most efficient course to his destination. The familiar weight of his weapons provides reassurance, and the solid presence of his Beskar armor serves as a reminder of his heritage and the code that guides his actions. The streets of Navarro seem somehow different as he makes his way back to his ship, as if the unusual nature of his new assignment has colored his perception of familiar surroundings. The volcanic ash that perpetually drifts through the air seems heavier, the shadows deeper, and the faces of the beings he passes more suspicious than usual. It is probably just his imagination, but in his line of work, imagination and intuition often serve as early warning systems for trouble ahead. The Razor Crest waits where he left it, its familiar bulk providing a sense of security and home that few other things in his life can match. As he climbs the ramp into the cargo hold, he takes a moment to check on his current prisoner, the mithril still safely frozen in his carbonite shell. Tomorrow, this particular job will be complete, and he will be free to pursue the mysterious assignment that now rests in his pocket. In the cockpit, as he settles into the pilot's seat and begins the pre-flight checklist that has become as automatic as breathing, our Mandalorian allows himself a moment of quiet contemplation. Somewhere out there in the vast darkness of space, his next target awaits, unaware that a hunter has accepted the contract for their capture. The tracking fob will lead him to them eventually, but the journey itself promises to be anything but routine. As the Razor Crest's engines come to life with their familiar rumble, and as the ship begins its ascent from Navarro's scarred surface, the hunter has no way of knowing that he is embarking on a mission that will change not only his life, but the fate of the galaxy itself. The child he is being sent to find will challenge everything he believes about his profession, his people, and himself. But for now, there is only the quiet hum of the ship's systems, the endless expanse of space visible through the cockpit's viewports, and the steady pulse of the tracking fob that will guide him to his destiny. The stars year overhead in their eternal patterns, and somewhere among them, a small green child with enormous eyes and mysterious powers awaits rescue, though neither he nor the hunter who seeks him yet understands the true nature of their coming encounter. As you listen to this tale and feel yourself growing more relaxed with each passing moment, imagine the peaceful solitude of space travel, the gentle vibration of a ship's engines, and the hypnotic swirl of hyperspace outside the window. Let the rhythm of the story carry you deeper into rest, secure in the knowledge that even in a galaxy filled with danger and uncertainty, there are still heroes willing to stand up for what is right, even when they don't yet know what that might cost them. The journey to the coordinates provided by the Imperial tracking fob takes our Mandalorian through some of the most remote and dangerous regions of the Outer Rim territories. These are areas of space where the authority of any central government grows thin, where loyal warlords and criminal organizations often hold more power than legitimate law enforcement agencies. It is exactly the kind of place where someone might choose to hide if they wish to avoid the attention of both former Imperial authorities and the fledgling New Republic. As the Razor Crest emerges from hyperspace near the designated coordinates, the first thing that strikes our hunter is the apparent emptiness of the system. No planets show on his sensors, no space stations or other signs of civilization, just the cold, empty void of space, punctuated by the occasional asteroid or piece of space debris. It is exactly the kind of location that someone would choose if they wanted absolute privacy for a clandestine meeting. But appearances can be deceiving in space, and our Mandalorian has learned over the years to trust his instruments more than his eyes. A careful scan of the surrounding area reveals what he had expected to find. A ship, heavily modified and well-armed, maintaining position in the shadow of a large asteroid. The vessel's configuration suggests military origins, probably Imperial, though it has been modified extensively since its original construction. The process of making contact with an unknown ship in deep space is always a delicate one, particularly when Imperial technology is involved. Our hunter follows standard protocols, broadcasting his identification and the purpose of his visit, then waiting for a response. The silence that follows seems to stretch for an eternity, broken only by the steady hum of his ship's life support systems and the occasional ping of his sensors as they continue their passive scans. When the response finally comes, it is in the form of a heavily encrypted transmission that takes his ship's computer several minutes to decode. The message, when it finally appears on his screen, is brief and to the point. Coordinates for a docking bay aboard the waiting ship, along with specific instructions for approach and landing procedure. The level of security precautions involved confirms what he had already suspected. His client is someone who takes privacy and personal security very seriously indeed. The docking process itself proceeds without incident, though our Mandalorian notes the impressive array of defensive systems built into the ship's hull. Whoever owns this vessel has invested considerable resources in ensuring their protection, and the quality of the modifications suggests access to military-grade equipment and expertise. This is not the ship of a common criminal or smuggler, but rather someone with significant resources and connection. The airlock cycles with a soft hiss, and our hunter finds himself stepping into a corridor that immediately confirms his suspicions about his client's background. The interior of the ship has been restored to Imperial military standards, with polished deck plates, pristine walls, and lighting that creates the sterile, efficient atmosphere that was the hallmark of Imperial design philosophy. Even the air itself seems somehow cleaner and more carefully regulated than the recycled atmosphere of most civilian vessels. His escort, when she appears, is a woman whose bearing and manner immediately identify her as former Imperial military. Her uniform is impeccable, her posture perfect, and her eyes hold the kind of professional weariness that comes from years of service in dangerous situations. She introduces herself only as Dr. Pershing, and though she maintains a polite and professional demeanor, our hunter senses that she is evaluating him as carefully as he is evaluating her. The walk through the ship's corridors reveals glimpses of advanced medical equipment, research laboratories, and other facilities that suggest this vessel serves purposes far beyond simple transportation. Whatever his client's business might be, it clearly involves activities that require both secrecy and sophisticated technical capabilities. The pieces of the puzzle are beginning to form a picture, though many important details remain frustratingly obscure. The meeting concludes with the transfer of additional equipment that will be necessary for the mission. Specialized tracking devices, environmental suits rated for extreme conditions, and other gear that suggests the target's location will present significant challenges. As our hunter examines each piece of equipment, he notes the superior quality and advanced design that marks it as Imperial military issue, further confirming his suspicions about his client's background and resources. As he prepares to leave the mysterious ship and return to the Razor Crest, our Mandalorian finds himself considering the ethical implications of the job he has just accepted. Throughout his career, he has prided himself on working within the bounds of legitimate law enforcement, capturing criminals and fugitives who have violated the laws of civilized society. But something about this assignment feels different, more personal, and he cannot shake the feeling that he may be stepping into a situation that is more complex than it initially appeared. Yet the lure of the Beskar and the substantial payment proves stronger than his doubts, and as the airlock seals behind him and he makes his way back to his own ship, he commits himself fully to the mission ahead. Whatever moral complexities might be involved, he has given his word, and the Mandalorian way demands that such commitments be honored regardless of personal cost or consequence. The coordinates provided by his client lead to a system that does not appear on any standard navigation charts, a fact that immediately alerts our hunter to the sensitive nature of his destination. Uncharted systems are rare in the modern galaxy, and their existence usually indicates either recent discovery or deliberate concealment by parties who wish to avoid outside attention. Given the Imperial connections already evident in this mission, he suspects the latter explanation is more likely. The journey to the target system requires several hyperspace jumps through increasingly remote regions of space, each jump taking him further from the established space lanes and deeper into the unknown territories that exist beyond the reach of galactic civilization. These are regions where a ship's self-sufficiency becomes paramount, where rescue is unlikely if something goes wrong, and where the only law is what individual travelers bring with them. As the hours pass and the Razor Crest continues its journey toward the mysterious coordinates, our Mandalorian finds himself reviewing everything he knows about the mission and trying to piece together the larger picture. The Imperial connections, the advanced equipment, the generous payment, and the emphasis on live delivery all suggest that his target is someone of considerable importance, though whether that importance is positive or negative remains to be determined. The tracking fob itself continues to pulse with its steady rhythm, a constant reminder of the commitment he has made and the target that awaits him at journey's end. Sometimes, during the quiet hours of hyperspace travel, he finds himself studying the device, wondering about the person it will lead him to and the circumstances that have made their capture so valuable to his mysterious client. These moments of contemplation are interrupted by the practical necessities of space travel: navigation updates, system maintenance, meal preparation, and the dozens of other small tasks that keep a ship operational during long voyages. Yet even as he goes about these routine activities, part of his mind remains focused on the mission ahead and the challenges it is likely to present. The final approach to the target system requires careful navigation through a region of space cluttered with asteroids and debris, obstacles that would make detection of his ship difficult, but also create hazards for an unwary pilot. As he guides the Razor Crest through this natural maze, our hunter appreciates the tactical advantages such an approach provides, while also noting the skill and planning that would have been required to establish a base of operations in such a location. When the target world finally appears on his sensors, it immediately presents itself as exactly the kind of place where someone might choose to hide from the rest of the galaxy. The planet appears to be largely desert, with minimal atmosphere and no signs of significant civilization. Its remote location and harsh environment would discourage casual visitors, while providing the isolation that someone seeking privacy would find appealing. As he begins his final approach to the planet's surface, following the signal from his tracking fob toward what appears to be a small settlement in one of the planet's more hospitable regions, our Mandalorian has no way of knowing that he is about to encounter something that will challenge every assumption he has made about this mission. The child he has been sent to capture will prove to be unlike any target he has ever pursued, and the simple bounty hunting job he thought he was undertaking will evolve into something far more complex and meaningful. The landing site his instruments identify appears to be near a small compound of simple buildings, constructed in the utilitarian style common to frontier settlements throughout the Outer Rim. As he sets the Razor Crest down on a patch of relatively level ground and begins his final preparations for what he assumes will be a routine capture operation, the tracking fob in his hand pulses with increasing intensity, indicating that his target is very close indeed. But as he steps out of his ship and begins to make his way toward the compound, weapon ready and senses alert for any sign of danger, our hunter has no idea that his life is about to change forever. The small green child he is about to meet will awaken something within him that he had thought was buried forever, and the simple act of looking into those large innocent eyes will begin a transformation that will ultimately make him not just a better man, but a father. The compound that houses our Mandalorian's target proves to be more heavily defended than its humble appearance initially suggested. What had looked like a simple frontier settlement from the air reveals itself upon closer inspection to be a carefully designed defensive position, with clear fields of fire, multiple escape routes, and hidden weapon emplacements that become apparent only when they begin shooting at him. The firefight that follows is brief but intense, a deadly dance of blaster fire and tactical movement that showcases the skills our hunter has developed over years of similar encounters. His Beskar armor proves its worth, deflecting shots that would have been fatal to a less well-equipped bounty hunter, while his own marksmanship eliminates the defenders with professional efficiency. Within minutes, the compound falls silent, and he is free to begin his search for the target indicated by his tracking fob. The interior of the main building reveals signs of recent habitation, but also of hasty departure. Whoever had been living here had apparently detected his approach and made preparations for a quick escape, though they had not been quick enough to avoid the confrontation entirely. As he moves through the rooms, following the increasingly strong signal from his tracking device, our Mandalorian expects to find either his target or evidence of where they might have fled. What he does not expect to find in a small cradle-like pod hidden in the back room of the compound is a child. The being that looks up at him with large dark eyes is unlike anything he has ever encountered in his years of bounty hunting. Small, green-skinned, with oversized ears and an expression of innocent curiosity, the child appears to be very young, perhaps equivalent to a human infant or toddler. Yet there is something in those eyes that suggests intelligence far beyond what one would expect from such a young creature, an awareness that seems almost ancient in its depth and understanding. The tracking fob in his hand confirms what his eyes are telling him. This child is his target. The realization hits him like a physical blow, challenging every assumption he has made about the nature of his mission. He had expected to find a dangerous criminal, a rogue Imperial officer, or perhaps a smuggler with valuable information. Instead, he has found what appears to be a helpless infant, alone and apparently abandoned in this remote compound. For several long moments, hunter and child simply regard each other in silence. The child shows no fear, despite the intimidating appearance of the armored figure standing over its cradle. Instead, it reaches out with one small hand, as if trying to touch the shiny surface of his helmet. The gesture is so innocently trusting that it stops our Mandalorian cold, forcing him to confront the implications of what he has been asked to do. Throughout his career as a bounty hunter, he has prided himself on working within the bounds of legitimate law enforcement. His targets have always been adults who had chosen to break the law and were facing the consequences of their actions. Children, even the children of criminals, had always been off-limits, protected by both legal statute and his own moral code. The idea of delivering a child to an imperial client raises troubling questions about the true nature of his assignment. Yet the evidence is undeniable. The tracking fob continues to pulse insistently, its signal clearly indicating that this child is indeed the target he has been contracted to capture. The Beskar payment he has already received, and the promise of much more upon successful delivery, represents more wealth than he has ever possessed at one time. The practical considerations are clear: complete the job, collect the payment, and return to his normal life of hunting adult criminals in the Outer Rim territories. But as he reaches down to lift the child from its cradle, intending to carry through with his contracted obligations, something unexpected happens. The child looks directly at him, those large eyes seeming to peer right through his visor and into his soul, and extends its small hand toward him in a gesture that is unmistakably one of trust and connection. In that moment, something fundamental shifts within our hunter, awakening instincts and emotions that he had buried long ago. The memory surfaces unbidden, as clear and painful as if it had happened yesterday instead of decades ago. He sees himself as a child, trapped in the ruins of his village while battle droids march through the smoking remains of his home. He remembers the terror, the helplessness, the certainty that he was about to die alone and forgotten. And he remembers the moment when Mandalorian warriors appeared like avenging angels, fighting their way through the droid army to rescue him from certain death. The parallel is impossible to ignore. Here, in this remote compound, he has found another child in need of rescue, another innocent caught up in events beyond their understanding or control. The circumstances are different, but the fundamental situation is the same: a child, alone and vulnerable, depending on the actions of others for survival. The internal conflict that follows is perhaps the most intense our Mandalorian has ever experienced. On one side stands his professional reputation, his sworn word, and the practical benefits of completing the contracted job. On the other side stands everything he was taught about protecting the innocent, about the sacred duty of the strong to defend the weak, and about the kind of man he wants to be when he looks at himself in the mirror. The decision, when it comes, feels both inevitable and surprising. Instead of delivering the child to his imperial client, he finds himself making a choice that will fundamentally alter the course of his life. He decides to protect the child, to keep it safe from whatever forces have marked it for capture, and to find out the truth about why this innocent being has become the target of such intense interest. Lifting the child from its cradle, he is struck by how light and fragile it feels in his arms. This is not a dangerous criminal or a valuable asset to be traded for credits. This is a child, dependent and trusting, looking to him for protection and care. The weight of that responsibility settles on his shoulders like a mantle, heavy with implications he is only beginning to understand. The journey back to his ship takes on new meaning with the child in his arms. Every step, every decision, every tactical consideration must now account for the presence of an innocent who cannot defend themselves and who is entirely dependent on his choices for their safety and survival. It is a responsibility that both terrifies and ennobles him, transforming him from a simple bounty hunter into something far more important, a protector. As they reach the Razor Crest, our Mandalorian realizes that his ship, designed for the solitary life of a bounty hunter, is hardly equipped for caring for a child. The cargo hold, with its restraining bolts and carbonite chamber, the cramped quarters, the lack of proper sleeping arrangements for someone so small, all of these things must now be reconsidered through the lens of his new role as caregiver. The child, whom he will eventually come to know as Grogu, seems remarkably calm throughout these early moments of their relationship, perhaps sensing the protective intent in his rescuer's actions, or perhaps simply too young to understand the danger they are both now in. The small being settles into the makeshift bed our hunter creates from spare blankets and equipment cases. Those large dark eyes continue to watch him with an intensity that suggests understanding far beyond the child's apparent age. As the Razor Crest lifts off from the planet's surface, carrying them both away from the compound where their lives became intertwined, our Mandalorian finds himself grappling with questions he had never expected to face. How does one care for a child of an unknown species? What does this small being eat? How can he protect someone so vulnerable while continuing to navigate the dangerous world of the Outer Rim territory? But perhaps the most troubling question of all is what to do about his Imperial client. The man who hired him is expecting delivery of this child, and failure to complete a contracted job would not only destroy his professional reputation, but could also bring Imperial retribution down upon both him and his young charge. Yet the thought of delivering this innocent being to the cold clinical environment of that Imperial ship makes his stomach turn with revulsion. The solution, when it comes to him, represents a fundamental shift in his priorities and value. Rather than delivering the child as contracted, he will return the Beskar payment and forfeit the additional credits he had been promised. It will mean financial hardship, but it will also mean being able to sleep at night, knowing that he has not betrayed the trust of the innocent being now sleeping peacefully in his cargo hold. The hyperspace journey back to Navarro provides time for reflection on how dramatically his life has changed in the space of a few hours. Where once he had been a lone wolf, answerable to no one but himself and the guild, he now finds himself responsible for the welfare of another being. The child's presence transforms every aspect of his existence, from the practical considerations of ship maintenance and supply procurement, to the deeper questions of purpose and meaning that he had spent years avoiding. During the quiet hours of hyperspace travel, he finds himself simply watching the child sleep, marveling at the peaceful expression on that small face, and the trust implicit in such vulnerability. There is something about the child's presence that awakens memories he had thought safely buried, recollections of his own childhood and the Mandalorian warriors who had rescued him from certain death. The parallel is impossible to ignore, and it gives his decision to protect the child a sense of cosmic rightness that goes beyond mere sentiment. As they approach Navarro, however, our Mandalorian realizes that his troubles are far from over. The guild operates on trust and reputation, and his failure to complete a contracted job will not go unnoticed or unpunished. Worse, the Imperial client who hired him is unlikely to simply accept the return of his payment and forget about the child. There will be consequences for his decision, and those consequences will likely put both him and the child in greater danger than they were before. The landing on Navarro proceeds normally, but our hunter can sense the tension in the air as he makes his way through the familiar streets toward the guild hall. Word of his return has apparently spread, and the looks he receives from other hunters and guild personnel suggest that his reputation has already begun to suffer. In the bounty hunting business, reliability is everything, and a hunter who fails to complete contracted jobs quickly finds himself without work. The confrontation with Grief Karga, when it comes, is both predictable and painful. The guild leader's disappointment is evident, but so is his concern for the welfare of one of his most reliable hunters. The conversation that follows reveals the depth of the complications our Mandalorian has created for himself by choosing to protect the hide rather than complete his contracted mission. "You've created a problem for all of us," Karga explains, his voice heavy with regret. The client was very specific about the importance of this job, and very clear about the consequences of failure. This isn't just about your reputation anymore. It's about the safety of everyone who operates under guild protection. The implications are clear. By failing to deliver the child, our hunter has not only jeopardized his own position, but has also put the entire guild at risk of imperial retaliation. The organization that has been his professional home for years may no longer be able to protect him, and the community of hunters who had been his closest thing to family may now view him as a liability rather than an asset. Yet despite these consequences, our Mandalorian finds that his resolve remains unshaken. Looking down at the child in his arms, seeing those trusting eyes gazing up at him with complete faith in his protection, he knows that he has made the right choice regardless of the personal cost. Some things are more important than professional reputation or financial security, and protecting the innocent is one of them. The solution to his immediate problem comes from an unexpected source. Several other guild members, who had been listening to the conversation with Karga, step forward to offer their support. It seems that his decision to protect the child has resonated with something in their own codes of honor, awakening memories of why they had become hunters in the first place. The bounty hunting profession, for all its moral ambiguities, had originally been founded on the principle of bringing justice to those who had escaped it through conventional means. The kid's got guts, one of the hunters observes, nodding toward where the child sits quietly in our Mandalorian's arms. Anyone who double-crossed the guild for a foundling has got something worth protecting. The term foundling strikes our hunter with particular force, as it carries special meaning in Mandalorian culture. A foundling is a child who has been rescued and adopted into the Mandalorian way of life, regardless of their species or origin. It is a tradition that goes back thousands of years, reflecting the Mandalorian belief that family is defined not by blood but by choice and commitment. The realization that he has essentially adopted the child, whether consciously or not, brings both clarity and determination to his decision-making process. If this small being is indeed his foundling, then protecting it becomes not just a moral choice but a sacred duty, one that supersedes all other considerations, including professional obligations and personal safety. The standoff that follows when Imperial forces arrive on Navarro to reclaim the child becomes a defining moment not just for our Mandalorian, but for the entire community of hunters who have chosen to support him. The battle that erupts in the streets of the guild town is fierce and desperate, pitting the hunters' experience and determination against the Empire's superior numbers and equipment. It is during this battle that the child's true nature begins to reveal itself. In moments of extreme danger, when it seems that all hope is lost, the small being demonstrates abilities that defy explanation. Objects move without being touched, enemies are lifted into the air by invisible forces, and protective barriers appear from nowhere to shield the child and its protector from harm. These displays of power, while initially startling, eventually help our Mandalorian understand why the child has become the target of such intense Imperial interest. The abilities the child displays are unmistakably those of a Force-sensitive being, someone with the potential to become either a Jedi or a Sith depending on their training and influence. In the wrong hands, such power could be weaponized in ways that would threaten the safety of the entire galaxy. The revelation that his foundling possesses Force abilities adds new dimensions to his responsibility as a protector. Not only must he keep the child safe from those who would harm it, but he must also ensure that its developing powers are guided in positive directions. It is a task that will require wisdom, patience, and resources that he is not sure he possesses, but it is also a task that he accepts without hesitation. As the battle on Navarro reaches its climax, with Imperial forces closing in from all sides, and the situation becoming increasingly desperate, salvation comes from an unexpected source. The arrival of other Mandalorian warriors, drawn by the sounds of battle and the sight of one of their own in danger, turns the tide of the conflict in spectacular fashion. The fighting that follows showcases the legendary skills that have made Mandalorian warriors feared throughout the galaxy. Their coordinated tactics, superior equipment, and absolute determination to protect their own create a devastating combination that the Imperial forces cannot withstand. Within minutes, the tide of battle has turned, and the surviving Imperials are in full retreat. In the aftermath of the battle, as the smoke clears and the wounded are tended to, our Mandalorian finds himself face to face with the armorer, the spiritual leader of his covert and the keeper of Mandalorian traditions. Her presence on Navarro, far from the hidden sanctuary where his people have been living in exile, signals the importance of the events that have just transpired. The conversation that follows with the armorer proves to be one of the most significant moments in our hunter's life. She confirms what he had already begun to suspect, that by choosing to protect the child, he has demonstrated the highest values of the Mandalorian way. The decision to sacrifice personal gain for the protection of the innocent is exactly the kind of choice that defines a true Mandalorian warrior. "You have found your foundling," she tells him, her voice carrying the weight of ancient tradition and sacred duty. "This is the way." The formal recognition of his relationship with the child transforms what had been an impulsive decision into a sacred commitment. The child is no longer just someone he is protecting temporarily. It is now his responsibility in the most fundamental sense, a bond that will last until the child comes of age and can make its own way in the galaxy. The equipment the armorer provides for his new role as a father figure reflects both the practical and spiritual aspects of his commitment. A carrying sling that will allow him to keep the child close while leaving his hands free for combat. Specialized food supplies appropriate for a young Force-sensitive being, and modifications to his ship that will make it more suitable for long-term care of a child. But perhaps most importantly, she provides him with knowledge about the child's species and abilities that will be crucial for its proper care and training. The child, she explains, is a member of the same species as the legendary Jedi Master Yoda, beings who mature very slowly and possess incredible potential for Force manipulation. Proper training and guidance will be essential if the child is to develop its abilities in positive direction. As our Mandalorian prepares to leave Navarro with his foundling, he understands that his life has been fundamentally transformed by the events of the past few days. He is no longer just a bounty hunter pursuing criminals for credits. He is now a father figure, a protector, and a guardian of one of the most powerful Force-sensitive beings in the galaxy. The journey ahead will be filled with challenges and dangers that he cannot yet imagine. Imperial forces will continue to pursue them, seeking to reclaim the child for their own dark purposes. Other threats will emerge as word of the child's abilities spreads throughout the galaxy. And perhaps most challenging of all, he will need to learn how to be a parent to a being whose needs and abilities are unlike anything he has ever encountered. Yet as he settles into the pilot's seat of the Razor Crest, with the child sleeping peacefully in its new traveling crib, our Mandalorian feels a sense of purpose and fulfillment that has been missing from his life for years. The loneliness that had driven him to seek solitude in the far reaches of space has been replaced by the warm presence of family, and the aimless wandering that had characterized his recent years has been given direction and meaning. The stars that stretch endlessly before them no longer represent isolation and emptiness, but rather infinite possibilities for adventure and growth. Together, father and child will face whatever challenges the galaxy presents, bound by bonds stronger than blood and guided by the ancient ways that have sustained the Mandalorian people through countless trials and tribulations. As the days pass aboard the Razor Crest, our Mandalorian begins to observe the true extent of his foundling's remarkable abilities. What had initially seemed like random occurrences during moments of stress gradually reveal themselves to be manifestations of power that defies conventional understanding. The child, whom he has begun to think of as the kid, displays abilities that suggest a connection to forces beyond the normal scope of galactic civilization. The first clear demonstration comes during a routine meal preparation. As our hunter goes about the mundane task of heating rations in the ship's small galley, he becomes aware that the child is watching him with unusual intensity. Those large, dark eyes seem to be focused, not on him, but on the metal sphere that tops the gear shift in the cockpit. A sphere that has caught the child's attention since their first day together. What happens next challenges everything our Mandalorian thought he understood about the nature of reality. Without any physical contact, without any visible mechanism of cause and effect, the metal sphere begins to move. It lifts slowly from its position, floating through the air as if supported by invisible hands, and comes to rest gently in the child's outstretched palm. The sight is so startling that our hunter nearly drops the ration pack he had been preparing. Throughout his years of traveling the galaxy, he has encountered many strange phenomena, but nothing quite like this. The child's ability to move objects with what appears to be pure mental force represents a level of power that exists in the realm of legend and myth, rather than everyday experience. Yet the child's reaction to its own demonstration is remarkably casual. It examines the metal sphere with the same innocent curiosity it might show toward any new toy, apparently unaware that it has just performed what most beings would consider a miracle. The casual nature of the display suggests that such abilities are as natural to the child as breathing or eating, integral aspects of its developing consciousness rather than learned skills. Over the following days, similar incidents occur with increasing frequency. Objects move without being touched. Equipment repairs itself when the child is nearby. And on one memorable occasion, a malfunctioning hyperdrive component suddenly begins working perfectly after the child places its small hand on the ship's control panel. Each incident reinforces our Mandalorian's growing understanding that his foundling possesses abilities that exist far outside the normal parameters of galactic civilization. The implications of these abilities gradually become clear to him through research in the Razor Crest's limited database and conversations with contacts in various spaceports. The child's powers are consistent with historical accounts of force sensitivity, the same mysterious energy field that had supposedly given the Jedi their legendary abilities. If the child is indeed force sensitive, it represents both incredible potential and incredible danger. The potential lies in the child's capacity to become a force for good in the galaxy, using its abilities to protect the innocent and bring justice to those who would harm others. The legends speak of Jedi who could heal the sick, protect the weak, and stand against the forces of darkness with power that seemed to flow from the very fabric of the universe itself. If properly trained and guided, the child could become a beacon of hope in a galaxy that has seen too much darkness and suffering. But the danger is equally real and far more immediate. The same powers that could be used for good could also be turned to evil purposes if the child falls into the wrong hands. The Empire had spent decades hunting down and eliminating force-sensitive beings, recognizing the threat they posed to authoritarian rule. The few who had been captured rather than killed had been turned into weapons, their abilities corrupted and used to serve the Empire's dark purposes. The knowledge that Imperial forces are actively pursuing his foundling takes on new urgency in light of these realizations. They are not simply trying to reclaim a valuable asset or settle a professional dispute. They are seeking to capture one of the most potentially powerful force-sensitive beings in the galaxy. The stakes of protecting the child extend far beyond personal responsibility to encompass the safety and freedom of countless innocent beings throughout the galaxy. This understanding transforms our Mandalorian's approach to his protective duties. Where once he had been primarily concerned with keeping the child safe from immediate physical harm, he now understands that his responsibility extends to ensuring that the child's developing abilities are guided in positive directions. The task requires not just physical protection but also moral guidance, educational support, and most importantly, the kind of love and stability that will help the child grow into a force for good rather than evil. The challenges of this expanded role become apparent during their first encounter with other force-sensitive beings. On a remote world where they have stopped for supplies, the child's abilities attract the attention of a group of dark-side cultists who recognize the power potential in the small being. The confrontation that follows demonstrates both the child's incredible abilities and its current lack of control over them. In moments of extreme danger, the child's powers manifest with devastating effect. Imperial probe droids are crushed by invisible forces, hostile beings are lifted into the air and held helpless, and protective barriers appear from nowhere to shield both child and protector from harm. Yet these displays of power clearly exhaust the child, leaving it drained and vulnerable in the aftermath of each incident. The pattern becomes clear. The child's abilities are triggered primarily by emotional states, particularly fear, anger, and the desire to protect those it cares about. While this emotional connection to its powers makes them incredibly potent in dangerous situations, It also makes them unpredictable and potentially dangerous to innocent bystanders. Without proper training and emotional discipline, the child could easily become a threat to the very people it seeks to protect. The search for someone qualified to train the child becomes our Mandalorian's primary mission. The old Jedi Order is gone, destroyed by the Empire decades ago, but rumors persist of survivors hidden throughout the galaxy. Finding one of these survivors, someone who could teach the child to control and channel its abilities properly, becomes the most important task our hunter has ever undertaken. The quest leads them to remote worlds and hidden sanctuaries, places where the echoes of the old Jedi teachings might still be preserved. Each lead proves to be either false or dangerous, but the journey itself provides valuable learning experiences for both father and child. The child's abilities continue to develop, manifesting in new and unexpected ways that constantly challenge our Mandalorian's understanding of what is possible. During one particularly memorable incident, the child demonstrates the ability to heal injuries through touch. When our hunter is wounded during a confrontation with pirates, the child places its small hands on the injury and somehow accelerates the healing process to an incredible degree. The wound that should have taken weeks to heal closes in a matter of hours, leaving only a faint scar to mark where it had been. This healing ability represents perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the child's developing power. While the destructive applications of force sensitivity are well documented in historical accounts, the ability to heal and restore is mentioned only in the most ancient legend. The fact that the child demonstrates such abilities naturally, without training or conscious effort, suggests a level of force sensitivity that is extraordinarily rare even among the most powerful Jedi of the past. The responsibility of protecting and guiding such a powerful being weighs heavily on our Mandalorian's shoulders. Every decision he makes, every lesson he teaches, every example he sets, will influence the child's development and ultimate destiny. The knowledge that his choices could affect the fate of the galaxy adds a cosmic dimension to the daily challenges of parenthood. Yet despite the enormous responsibility and the constant dangers they face, our hunter finds himself experiencing a happiness and fulfillment that had been missing from his life for years. The child's presence transforms even the most mundane aspects of space travel into opportunities for wonder and discovery. Simple things like watching the child's reaction to a new planet or sharing a meal together become precious memories that will last a lifetime. The bond between them deepens with each passing day, transcending the initial commitment to protect the child and evolving into genuine love and family connection. The child, for its part, clearly regards our Mandalorian as its father figure, looking to him for guidance, comfort, and protection. The trust implicit in this relationship is both humbling and inspiring, motivating our hunter to be the best version of himself that he can possibly be. As they continue their journey through the galaxy, searching for someone who can help the child understand and control its abilities, they encounter others who have been touched by the Force in various ways. Some are former Jedi who have managed to survive the Empire's purges by hiding their abilities and living in obscurity. Others are Force-sensitive beings who never received formal training but have developed their own ways of channeling their power. Each encounter provides new insights into the nature of the Force and the child's place within its cosmic framework. The picture that emerges is of a universe where consciousness and energy are far more interconnected than most beings realize, where thoughts and emotions can literally reshape reality through the application of will and understanding. The child's natural ability to tap into this cosmic force represents a return to the ancient traditions that once guided the galaxy toward peace and justice. The education our Mandalorian receives alongside his foundling proves to be as transformative as any formal training program. Learning to see the galaxy through the child's eyes, to understand the deeper connections that bind all living things together, and to recognize the responsibility that comes with great power changes his perspective on everything from his professional activities to his personal relationship. The simple act of caring for the child also teaches him lessons about patience, selflessness, and unconditional love that no amount of combat training or professional experience could have provided. The daily routines of feeding, Bathing and comforting the child become meditation practices that help him understand his own motivations and desires more clearly than ever before. As the child's abilities continue to develop and strengthen, our Mandalorian realizes that his role as protector is evolving into something even more important, that of teacher and guide. While he may not possess Force abilities himself, he can teach the child about courage, honor, loyalty, and the other values that define the Mandalorian way of life. These lessons, combined with the child's natural connection to the Force, will help shape the kind of being it becomes as it matures. The knowledge that he is helping to raise what may be one of the most powerful Force-sensitive beings in the galaxy is both terrifying and exhilarating. Every day brings new challenges and new opportunities for growth. For both father and child, the journey they are on together has no clear destination, but the path itself is filled with wonder, discovery, and the deep satisfaction that comes from doing what is right regardless of the personal cost. The peaceful days of bonding and discovery aboard the Razor Crest come to an abrupt end when our Mandalorian and his foundling encounter the true extent of the Imperial forces arrayed against them. What had initially seemed like a simple matter of avoiding a single Imperial client gradually reveals itself to be part of a much larger and more sinister operation, one that reaches to the highest levels of the Empire's surviving leadership structure. The first indication of the scope of the threat comes through intercepted communications that suggest multiple Imperial cells are coordinating their efforts to recapture the child. The fragmented transmissions speak of a figure known only as Moff Gideon, an Imperial officer who apparently survived the Empire's fall and has been operating from the shadows, rebuilding Imperial forces and pursuing his own agenda for galactic domination. The name means nothing to our Mandalorian initially, but research through underground networks and criminal contacts gradually reveals the truth about this mysterious figure. Moff Gideon is no ordinary Imperial survivor. He is a high-ranking officer who commanded respect and fear even at the height of the Empire's power. His survival of the Empire's collapse and his continued operations suggest resources, connections, and determination that make him a formidable opponent indeed. The realization that they are being hunted by such a powerful adversary forces our hunter to reconsider his entire approach to protecting the child. The random encounters with Imperial forces that they have experienced are not isolated incidents but part of a coordinated campaign to track them down and recapture the child. Every spaceport they visit, every planet they land on, every person they interact with could potentially be part of Gideon's network of informants and agents. The paranoia that this knowledge engenders is both necessary and exhausting. Constant vigilance becomes a way of life, with every decision filtered through considerations of operational security and threat assessment. The simple act of purchasing supplies requires careful planning and multiple contingencies, while the child's need for social interaction and play must be balanced against the dangers of exposure to potential enemies. The stress of living under constant threat begins to take its toll on both father and child. The child, sensing the tension in its protector, becomes more withdrawn and less inclined to use its developing ability. Our Mandalorian, meanwhile, finds himself struggling with the isolation that comes from being unable to trust anyone outside their small family unit. The carefree days of exploration and discovery are replaced by careful route planning and defensive positioning. The first direct encounter with Moff Gideon's forces comes without warning during what should have been a routine supply run on a backwater planet. The attack is swift, coordinated, and overwhelming, demonstrating a level of tactical sophistication that confirms their adversary's military background and resources. Only quick thinking and the timely intervention of unexpected allies allows them to escape with their lives. The battle itself serves as a harsh introduction to the realities of facing organized Imperial forces, rather than the random encounters they had experienced previously. These are not opportunistic bounty hunters or desperate remnants. They are disciplined soldiers following orders from a command structure that has survived the Empire's collapse, largely. Their equipment is military grade, their tactics are coordinated, and their determination to complete their mission is absolute. The escape from the planet requires all of our Mandalorian skills as a pilot and tactical operator. The Razor Crest, despite its age and limitations, proves its worth as a combat vessel. But the encounter leaves no doubt that they are facing an enemy with resources that far exceed their own. The pursuit ships that follow them are faster, better armed, and more numerous than anything they had encountered before. It is during this chase sequence that the child's abilities manifest in ways that surprise even our experienced hunter. Faced with the imminent destruction of their ship and the capture of its protector, the child reaches out with the Force and somehow disables the pursuing vessel's weapons systems. The effect is temporary and clearly exhausts the small being, but it provides the crucial moments needed for their escape into hyperspace. The incident serves as a turning point in our Mandalorians' understanding of both the threat they face and the resources they possess to meet it. The child's abilities, while still developing and unpredictable, represent a significant tactical advantage if they can be properly utilized. At the same time, the organized nature of their opposition means that running and hiding may no longer be sufficient strategies for long-term survival. The decision to go on the offensive, to actively seek out and confront Moff Gideon, rather than simply trying to avoid him, represents a fundamental shift in our hunter's approach to protecting his foundling. The passive strategy of staying hidden and avoiding contact has clearly failed. It is time to take the fight to the enemy and eliminate the threat at its source. The intelligence-gathering phase of this new approach reveals disturbing information about Gideon's ultimate objectives. The Imperial officer is not simply trying to recapture a valuable asset. He is attempting to use the child's blood to create an army of Force-sensitive soldiers under Imperial control. The implications of such a program are staggering, representing a threat not just to the child, but to the freedom of every being in the galaxy. The knowledge that his foundling's blood could be used to create an army of dark side warriors adds new urgency to our Mandalorian's protective mission. The stakes have escalated beyond personal responsibility to encompass the safety of galactic civilization itself. Failure to protect the child could result in the resurrection of the Empire in a form even more dangerous than its original incarnation. The preparation for direct confrontation with Gideon's forces requires resources and allies that our hunter cannot provide alone. The realization that he needs help, that the mission has grown beyond what any single individual can handle, represents a significant psychological milestone for someone who has spent years operating in isolation. Reaching out for assistance means acknowledging vulnerability and dependence, qualities that do not come easily to a professional bounty hunter. The allies who answer his call come from unexpected sources. Former Rebel Alliance fighters who have personal reasons for opposing Imperial resurgence, Mandalorian warriors who recognize the threat to their foundling brother, even former Imperial personnel who have grown disgusted with the direction their organization has taken. The coalition that forms around the mission to protect the child represents a cross-section of galactic society united by shared values rather than common origin. The intelligence they gather about Gideon's base of operations reveals the scope of the challenge they face. The Imperial officer has established a heavily fortified facility on a remote world, protected by automated defenses, elite troops, and advanced technology. The base itself is a testament to Imperial engineering and military doctrine, designed to withstand siege and repel any conceivable assault. Yet the facility also represents a vulnerability in Gideon's strategy. By concentrating his forces and resources in a single location, he has created a target that, if successfully attacked, could cripple his entire operation. The risk is enormous. Failure would likely result in the death or capture of everyone involved in the assault, but success could eliminate the threat to the child permanently. The planning phase of the assault becomes an education in military strategy and tactics that our Mandalorian had never expected to receive. Working with former military personnel from various factions, he learns about combined arms operations, siege warfare, and the complex logistics required to support extended combat operations. The knowledge is both fascinating and sobering, highlighting the enormous challenges involved in taking on a prepared enemy position. The child's role in the upcoming battle becomes a subject of intense debate among the assault team. Some argue that the child should be kept far from the fighting, protected by a small guard force while the main assault takes place. Others contend that the child's abilities could be crucial to the mission's success, providing capabilities that conventional forces cannot match. Our Mandalorian finds himself torn between his protective instincts and his tactical judgment. Every fiber of his being rebels against the idea of deliberately placing his foundling in danger, yet he cannot ignore the reality that the child's abilities may be the key to victory. The decision he ultimately makes reflects his growing understanding of the child's nature and destiny, recognizing that hiding from danger may not be the best way to prepare for the challenges that lie ahead. The final briefing before the assault takes place in the shadow of the Razor Crest, with the child sleeping peacefully in its makeshift bed. The irony is not lost on anyone present that they are planning a military operation to protect the dreams of a small child, that the fate of their mission depends on their ability to preserve the innocence that the child represents. The contrast between the harsh realities of warfare and the gentle trust of the sleeping child serves as a powerful reminder of what they are fighting for. As the assault force prepares to depart for their target, our Mandalorian takes a moment to observe his foundling one last time. The child's peaceful expression, the way its small hand clutches the metal sphere that has become its favorite toy, the absolute trust implicit in its vulnerability, all of these things serve to reinforce his determination to see the mission through to its conclusion, regardless of the personal cost. The knowledge that he may not survive the coming battle adds poignancy to these final moments of peace. Yet he also understands that some things are worth dying for, and protecting the innocent has always been at the top of that list. If his sacrifice can ensure the child's safety and prevent the creation of an army of dark side warriors, then it will be a death with meaning and purpose. The stars that shine down on their preparations seem to pulse with anticipation, as if the galaxy itself is holding its breath in anticipation of the coming confrontation. The battle that lies ahead will determine not just the fate of one child, but the future of freedom and justice throughout the galaxy. The weight of that responsibility rests on the shoulders of a small group of unlikely heroes, united by their commitment to protecting the innocent and opposing tyranny in all its forms. As the final preparations are completed and the assault force prepares to launch their attack, our Mandalorian reflects on the journey that has brought him to this moment. From a simple bounty hunting job to a cosmic battle between good and evil, the path has been neither straight nor predictable. Yet each step has led inevitably to this moment, when he must risk everything to protect the child who has become the most important thing in his universe. In the quiet aftermath of their confrontation with Moff Gideon's forces, as the immediate threat has been neutralized and the child's safety momentarily secured, our Mandalorian finds himself grappling with questions that extend far beyond tactical considerations and survival strategies. The victory they have achieved, while significant, has also illuminated the larger questions of identity, purpose, and belonging that have been stirring beneath the surface of his consciousness throughout their journey together. The child, now safe from the immediate threat of Imperial experimentation, has begun to display new aspects of its personality and abilities. The trauma of recent events has clearly affected the small being, but it has also seemed to accelerate its emotional and spiritual development. Where once it had been content to simply observe and react to the world around it, it now shows signs of actively engaging with its environment and making conscious choices about how to use its remarkable abilities. This evolution in the child's development forces our Mandalorian to reconsider his own role in their relationship. The protective instincts that had driven him to rescue the child from Imperial forces are still strong, but they are now balanced by a recognition that his foundling is growing into an independent being with its own needs, desires, and destiny. The challenge of parenting, he realizes, is not just about protection but about guidance, education, and preparation for eventual independence. The process of rebuilding their life together in the wake of their recent adventures leads them to seek out communities where they can find both safety and belonging. The Outer Rim territories, while offering freedom from governmental oversight, also provide opportunities to connect with others who understand the challenges of living outside conventional society. It is in these frontier communities that our hunter begins to rediscover what it means to be part of something larger than himself. The first such community they encounter is a settlement of refugees from various conflicts throughout the galaxy. Beings who have been displaced by war and political upheaval and have banded together for mutual support and protection. The diversity of species and backgrounds represented in the settlement creates a rich tapestry of experiences and perspectives that proves both educational and inspiring for both father and child. The child's reaction to this diverse community is particularly revealing. Rather than showing fear or suspicion toward unfamiliar beings, it demonstrates an immediate openness and curiosity that suggests an innate understanding of the fundamental connections that bind all living things together. The force sensitivity that makes it so powerful also seems to give it an intuitive grasp of the unity underlying apparent diversity. This openness to connection extends to the child's interactions with other force-sensitive beings they encounter in their travel. On one memorable occasion, they meet an elderly woman who had been a Jedi Padawan before the Purges. Someone who had survived by hiding her abilities and living a simple life as a farmer on a remote world. The connection between her and the child is immediate and profound, suggesting that force-sensitive beings can recognize and communicate with each other in ways that transcend conventional understanding. The conversation that follows between our Mandalorian and this survivor of the Jedi Order provides crucial insights into the nature of the Force and the child's place within the cosmic order. The former Padawan, who introduces herself simply as Ahsoka, explains that the child's species ages very slowly, meaning that despite its infant-like appearance, it has actually lived for many decades and possesses memories of the Jedi Temple before its destruction. This revelation fundamentally changes our Mandalorian's understanding of his foundling. The being he has been caring for is not simply a powerful child, but a survivor of one of the galaxy's greatest tragedies. Someone who witnessed the fall of the Jedi Order and has been hiding its abilities out of necessity rather than innocence. The weight of this history adds new dimensions to their relationship, transforming it from a simple parent-child bond into something more complex and profound. Ahsoka's assessment of the child's emotional state reveals the deep trauma that underlies its apparent calm. The attachment it has formed to its Mandalorian protector, while natural and healthy in many ways, also carries the potential for fear, anger, and possessiveness, emotions that can lead force-sensitive beings down dark paths. The former Jedi's reluctance to train the child stems not from any lack of ability, but from her recognition of these emotional complexities. The decision that emerges from their discussions represents a compromise between competing needs and philosophy, rather than formal Jedi training which might conflict with the child's strong attachment to its Mandalorian father. Ahsoka suggests seeking out others of the child's species who might better understand its unique needs and ability. This quest becomes the next phase of their journey together, taking them to ancient worlds and forgotten temples in search of answers. The journey to find others of the child's kind leads our Mandalorian through some of the most remote and mysterious regions of the galaxy. Ancient star charts speak of worlds where the Force flows strongly, places where beings of great power once gathered to study the deeper mysteries of existence. Each destination offers new challenges and revelations, testing both father and child in different ways. On one such world, they discover the ruins of an ancient temple that seems to resonate with the child's presence. The Force flows strongly here, creating phenomena that defy conventional understanding. Stones that float without support, lights that appear from nowhere, and echoes of voices from the distant past. The child's interaction with these phenomena reveals new aspects of its abilities, suggesting that its connection to the Force runs deeper than even Ahsoka had suspected. It is in this temple that they encounter their first real clue about the child's origins and destiny. Ancient murals depict beings of the child's species in positions of great honor and responsibility, serving as guardians and teachers for other Force-sensitive beings throughout the galaxy. The implication is clear. The child belongs to a lineage of beings who have served as guides and protectors for countless generations. This discovery provides our Mandalorian with a new perspective on his role in the child's life. He is not just protecting a powerful individual, he is helping to preserve a legacy of wisdom and guardianship that stretches back thousands of years. The responsibility is both humbling and inspiring, giving deeper meaning to the sacrifices he has made and the challenges he has faced. The temple also provides them with their first concrete lead in the search for others of the child species. Ancient records speak of a seeing stone on the world of Tython, a place of power where force-sensitive beings can reach out across the galaxy to communicate with others of their kind. The journey to Tython becomes their next objective, though both father and child understand that it may also represent the beginning of their separation. The emotional weight of this possibility creates tension in their relationship that had not existed before. The child, sensing its protector's conflict between duty and attachment, becomes more clingy and reluctant to demonstrate its abilities. Our Mandalorian, meanwhile, struggles with the knowledge that successful completion of their quest might mean losing the being who has given his life meaning and purpose. As their quest leads them deeper into Mandalorian space and culture, our hunter begins to reconnect with the broader community of his people in ways that had not been possible during his years as a solitary bounty hunter. The experience of caring for the child has changed his perspective on the importance of community and belonging, making him more open to the connections and relationships that had once seemed like burdens rather than blessings. The first significant encounter with other Mandalorians comes when they seek assistance in preparing for the rendezvous to Tython. The task of reaching the ancient Jedi world and activating the Seeing Stone will require resources and expertise that he cannot provide alone. The decision to reach out for help represents a significant step away from the isolation that had characterized his life for so many years. The response to his call for assistance reveals the depth of loyalty and brotherhood that exists within Mandalorian culture, even among warriors who have been scattered across the galaxy by the Great Purge. One by one, other Mandalorians emerge from hiding to offer their support, each bringing unique skills and resources to the mission. The assembly of this informal clan creates a sense of family and belonging that our hunter had almost forgotten was possible. Among those who answer his call is Bo-Katan Kryze, a legendary Mandalorian warrior whose family had once ruled their homeworld of Mandalore. Her presence brings both authority and controversy to their group, as her political ambitions and methods sometimes conflict with the more traditional approaches favored by others in their makeshift clan. The tensions that arise from these differences provide our Mandalorian with new insights into the complexities of leadership and community. The child's interaction with these other Mandalorians proves particularly revealing. Despite their imposing armor and warrior culture, the child shows no fear of these new additions to their extended family. Instead, it seems to instinctively understand the bonds of loyalty and protection that unite them, responding to their presence with the same trust it shows toward its primary protector. This acceptance helps bridge potential divisions within the group, as even the most hardened warriors find it difficult to resist the child's innocent charm. The planning sessions for their mission to Tython become opportunities for our Mandalorian to learn more about the broader struggles of his people. The Great Purge that scattered the Mandalorians across the galaxy was not just a military defeat, but a cultural catastrophe that threatened the very survival of their way of life. The warriors who have gathered to help him represent not just individual fighters but the keepers of traditions and values that stretch back thousands of years. Bo-Katan's stories of the siege of Mandalore and the subsequent diaspora provide context for the isolation and secrecy that have characterized Mandalorian life in recent years. The Empire's systematic destruction of their homeworld and the theft of the Darksaber, the ancient weapon that symbolizes legitimate rule over Mandalore, represent wounds that have never fully healed. The mission to protect the child becomes in many ways a chance for redemption and renewal. The journey to Tython itself becomes a pilgrimage of sorts, with each member of their small clan contributing to the child's safety and their collective mission. The camaraderie that develops during the long hyperspace journey provides our Mandalorian with experiences of brotherhood and shared purpose that had been missing from his life since childhood. The stories shared around their improvised meals, the tactical discussions, and the quiet moments of mutual support all contribute to his growing sense of belonging. The child's response to this expanded family unit reveals new aspects of its personality and emotional development. Where once it had been entirely dependent on its primary caregiver, it now shows signs of forming attachments to other members of their group. These relationships, while not as deep as its bond with our Mandalorian, demonstrate the child's capacity for trust and affection that extends beyond the immediate survival needs that had originally brought them together. The approach to Tython brings with it a sense of anticipation and dread that affects everyone in their small fleet. The seam stone represents both hope and potential loss. Hope that they will find others of the child's kind who can provide proper training and guidance, but potential loss if that training requires permanent separation. The emotional stakes of their mission weigh heavily on all of them, but particularly on our Mandalorian, who faces the possibility of losing the being who has become the center of his universe. The planet itself proves to be as mysterious and powerful as the ancient records had suggested. The Force flows strongly here, creating atmospheric disturbances and gravitational anomalies that challenge even experienced pilots. The very air seems to vibrate with potential energy, and sensitive equipment registers readings that defy conventional understanding. For the child, the approach to Tython clearly represents a homecoming of sorts, as its abilities begin to manifest more strongly the closer they get to the ancient Jedi world. The discovery of the Darksaber during their confrontation with Moff Gideon introduces complications that extend far beyond the immediate tactical situation. This ancient weapon, forged by the first Mandalorian Jedi over 1,000 years ago, carries with it not just symbolic power but legitimate authority over all Mandalorian clans. The fact that our hunter has won it in combat, according to ancient tradition, makes him the rightful ruler of Mandalore, a position he neither sought nor desires. The weight of this unexpected responsibility creates internal conflict that mirrors the external challenges they face. Our Mandalorian has spent his entire adult life avoiding political entanglements and leadership roles, preferring the simple clarity of bounty hunting to the complex moral ambiguities of governance. The idea that he might be expected to unite the scattered Mandalorian clans and lead them in reclaiming their homeworld represents a fundamental challenge to his sense of identity and purpose. Bo-Katan's reaction to his acquisition of the Darksaber reveals the depth of the political currents that swirl beneath the surface of Mandalorian culture. Her family's historical claim to leadership of their people, combined with her years of military and political experience, make her seemingly better qualified for the role than a lone bounty hunter with no experience in large-scale leadership. Yet the ancient traditions are clear. The Darksaber must be won in combat, and it cannot simply be given away. The child's presence adds another layer of complexity to this political situation. As our Mandalorian's foundling, it represents not just a personal relationship, but a potential dynastic connection that could affect the future of Mandalorian leadership. The integration of Force abilities into Mandalorian culture, while not unprecedented, could herald a new era for their people, one that combines their warrior traditions with mystical powers that few of them fully understand. The discussions that take place around the Darksaber and its implications for their people's future provide our Mandalorian with education in history, politics, and leadership that no amount of combat training could have provided. The stories of past rulers, the lessons learned from military defeats and political failures, and the dreams of eventual restoration all contribute to his growing understanding of what it means to be responsible for more than just his own survival and that of his foundling. The practical challenges of leadership become apparent as various Mandalorian factions begin to reach out, seeking guidance and direction from the new bearer of the Darksaber. Requests for mediation in disputes between clans, decisions about resource allocation, and strategic planning for future operations all require attention and wisdom that our hunter feels unprepared to provide. The transition from individual operator to community leader proves to be one of the most difficult challenges he has ever faced. Yet the same qualities that made him an effective bounty hunter, patience, analytical thinking, and unwavering determination, also serve him well in his new role. His approach to leadership, informed by years of operating on the margins of society, brings fresh perspectives to problems that have plagued his people for generations. The outsider's view that once made him isolated now becomes a valuable asset in finding solutions that more traditional leaders might have overlooked. The child's influence on his leadership style cannot be underestimated. The lessons learned in caring for a dependent being, patience, selflessness, and the ability to put another's needs before his own, translate directly into the skills needed for effective governance. The same protective instincts that drive him to safeguard his foundling now extend to encompass his responsibility for all Mandalorian people. As our Mandalorian stands at the crossroads of personal fulfillment and greater responsibility, the path forward requires him to synthesize everything he has learned about family, duty, leadership, and sacrifice. The child's training and development continue to be his primary concern, but they now take place within the broader context of rebuilding Mandalorian civilization and preparing for the challenges that lie ahead. The establishment of a new Mandalorian stronghold becomes the practical expression of his vision for their people's future. Unlike the hidden enclaves and secret bases that had characterized their existence since the Great Purge, this new settlement will be open and welcoming, a place where Mandalorian culture can flourish while also serving as a refuge for others who seek protection and belonging. The integration of diverse species and backgrounds reflects the lessons learned from the child about the fundamental unity that underlies apparent differences. The training programs established at this new stronghold reflect both traditional Mandalorian values and the expanded understanding that comes from their recent experiences. Combat skills and tactical training remain important, but they are balanced by education in diplomacy, cultural preservation, and the kind of wisdom needed to guide Force-sensitive beings toward positive path. The curriculum represents a synthesis of warrior traditions and mystical understanding that could herald a new era for their people. The child's role in this new community extends beyond that of a protected foundling to become something approaching a spiritual guide. Its natural connection to the Force, combined with the wisdom gained through its long life and traumatic experiences, provides insights that benefit everyone in the settlement. The teaching relationship between father and child becomes increasingly reciprocal, with each learning from the other in ways that strengthen their bond while also preparing them for the challenges ahead. The vision that emerges from their efforts is one of hope tempered by realism, recognizing both the potential for renewal and the continuing threats that face all free beings in the galaxy. The Empire may have fallen, but its legacy of oppression and tyranny continues in various forms throughout the galaxy. The new Mandalorian community they are building represents not just a refuge from these threats but a base from which to actively oppose them. The final chapter of their immediate story thus becomes not an ending but a beginning, the foundation for adventures and challenges that will test everything they have learned about courage, loyalty, family, and the responsibility that comes with great power. The bond between Mandalorian warrior and Force-sensitive child has evolved into something that transcends their individual stories to become part of the larger narrative of hope and renewal that continues to unfold across the galaxy. The stars that once represented isolation and emptiness now shine with the promise of connection and purpose. Together they have found not just survival but meaning, not just safety but belonging. The way forward is clear, even if the path is uncertain, and they will walk it together, father and child, teacher and student, protector and protected, united in their commitment to the values and traditions that define not just who they are but who they choose to become. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, where countless stars burn with ancient light and civilizations rise and fall like distant memories, the story of one Mandalorian warrior and his foundling child stands as a testament to the enduring power of love, sacrifice, and the choices that define us. What began as a simple bounty hunting contract evolved into something far greater, a journey of transformation that would reshape not only two lives but the destiny of entire peoples. The armored figure who once walked alone through the shadows of the Outer Rim now stands surrounded by clan and community, his beskar gleaming not just with the light of distant suns, but with the warmth of belonging. The child who once cowered in a floating pram, pursued by forces that would exploit his power, now grows in safety and wisdom, his abilities guided by love rather than fear, his potential directed toward protection rather than destruction. Their story reminds us that in a universe often dominated by darkness and despair, hope can emerge from the most unlikely sources. A bounty hunter's moment of compassion, A child's innocent trust. The decision to choose what is right over what is easy. These small acts of courage ripple outward across the galaxy, touching lives and changing destinies in ways that even the most prescient among us cannot foresee. The Mandalorian way, the creed that binds warriors across generations and species, has evolved through their journey. It remains rooted in the ancient traditions of strength, honor, and protection of the innocent. But it has also expanded to embrace the wisdom that comes from understanding the deeper connections that bind all living things together. The Force, once viewed with suspicion by many Mandalorians, is now recognized as another aspect of the cosmic order that must be respected and protected. As Din Djarin continues to raise Grogu, teaching him the ways of the Mandalorian while learning from the child's natural connection to the Force, their bond represents something new in the galaxy. A synthesis of warrior tradition and mystical understanding, of ancient wisdom and evolving truth. They are forging a path that honors the past while embracing the future, showing that strength and gentleness are not opposites, but complementary aspects of true power. The threats they have faced, the Imperial Remnant, the dark side cultists, the countless predators who would exploit the innocent, have not disappeared. Evil continues to exist in the galaxy, taking new forms and finding new ways to spread suffering and oppression. But they have also proven that such threats can be faced and overcome when beings of courage and conviction stand together, united by shared values and mutual commitment to something greater than themselves. The Razor Crest may be gone, destroyed in the crucible of their greatest battle, but the spirit it represented, the freedom to choose one's own path, the courage to face the unknown, the determination to protect what matters most, lives on in the hearts of those who carry forward the Mandalorian legacy. New ships will be built, new journeys will be undertaken, and new challenges will be met with the same unwavering resolve that has defined their people for millennia. In the end, their story is not just about a Mandalorian and his foundling child, though that bond remains at its heart. It is about the eternal struggle between light and darkness, between hope and despair, between the forces that would tear us apart and those that bind us together. It is about the recognition that we are all stronger when we stand together, that the greatest victories are often won not through the strength of arms but through the power of love and sacrifice. The stars that once seemed cold and distant now shine with the warmth of infinite possibility. Somewhere among those stars, a Mandalorian warrior and his Force-sensitive child continue their journey, protected by their clan, guided by their creed, and united by bonds that transcend species, culture, and the vast emptiness of space itself. Their story continues to unfold, each day bringing new adventures, new challenges, and new opportunities to prove that the light of hope can never be fully extinguished. This is the way, and the way is eternal.